few minutes ago, you mentioned George S. Patton, one of the great generals, not just of American history, the American military, but in the world. And I'm often reminded when I served in the Congress before and dealing with folks in Washington that what General Patton said about your enemies and your friends, and that is you always know where your enemies are, they're ahead of you. You never quite know where your friends are. And that's certainly true in Washington. Another gentleman that I thought of, Carolyn, as you were making your introductory remarks is Charlton Heston. Charlton Heston served, as we know, for many years as the president of the NRA during the time that I've been honored to serve as an NRA board member. And Mr. Heston said, as a matter of fact, his autobiography carries this phrase of his, in the arena. He said many times that you can't win the fight if you're not in the arena. And I've had the honor of serving in a number of arenas over the years. The first public arena in which I served was with the CIA. After I got out of college, I decided to serve my country by supporting our military and our civilian leaders through working intelligence. And in the arena of intelligence, foreign intelligence, you learn the insidious nature of our enemies. You learn that the Soviet Empire, our communist enemies, and they are still out there, trust me, are everywhere. They use surrogates. You can't always believe certainly what a nation or a non-state actor says. So I learned from being in that arena. When I moved down here to Georgia in 1978, several years later, I entered the arena of serving as your United States Attorney, appointed by the greatest president of the 20th century, Ronald Reagan, and serving as your United States Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. You learn that even good people can do bad. You learn to constantly be on guard. As a matter of fact, my son Derek, who's serving as my campaign manager, remembers those times when he was a teenager, and probably even before that, when we had to have police protection at our house because of problems and threats from the drug cartel. But another arena in which I've had the honor of serving is as your United States Congressman from the former 7th District of Georgia here. And in that arena, you learn also that enemies are everywhere. We had a president for which I led the impeachment named William Jefferson Clinton. And William Jefferson Clinton did something that many before him had done, and we prosecuted them as United States Attorney as well. He obstructed justice and perjured himself. So the lessons that we learn, the lessons that I've learned through the honor of being in the positions you've entrusted me to, such as a CIA official, United States Attorney, United States Congressman, have given me the tools that we need today to fight our enemies, foreign and domestic. And we know exactly where some of them are. We don't know where all of them are, but we know where some of them are. And one of them is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The other is Miss Pelosi, whether she is flying between California and Washington or somewhere else. Harry Reid, the man who never smiles. Never trust a man who never smiles. We know who these folks are, and we need folks up there that can fight them tooth and nail, that have the experience in the arenas to fight them, who have gone tooth and nail against these forces of evil, whether they are the forces of government spending, the forces of inflation, the forces of communism, the forces of the drug cartel. And it will be an honor for me to serve again in the arena, in the United States Congress, as your representative from the 11th District of Georgia. So I appreciate very much, Carolyn, what you and your colleagues do, Conrad and the others who organize and participate in the Tea Party movement, movements all across the 11th District, across Georgia, and across this great country. I appreciate very much my colleagues here this evening, fellow candidates who are also putting themselves into the arena to debate the issues of public concern and to move our nation forward. I would appreciate your vote, appreciate your support, and appreciate your continued support for these great United States of America. Thank you again, Carolyn.
Thank you.
I pass the soapbox to Alan.
Well, you actually have how much time left?
You got a minute and a half.
Wow. You got a minute and a half. You want to take the question? You want to fill it up in some way? You got a minute and a half.
No, what I'd like to do is yield to, that will be a lesson. When I'm in the Congress, I will not exceed my time. I yield back the balance of my time, as we say.
Okay.
But that just leaves us a little more time for Q&A after.
Okay, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All righty. Alan, you're next.
at least for six, maybe 7.5 minutes. I'm Alan Levine. I'm running for the 11th District. I'm not a politician. I've never, until the last election, I did not run for Congress. I haven't occupied any public political office, and there's a reason for that. I'm in the IT business. I've been in the IT business servicing currently data centers with highly technical stuff for 30 years. And the reason I haven't been involved in politics is I didn't think that that the politicians in Washington could do as much damage to this nation as they're doing. My wife and I were in New Orleans for the year 2000. And I said to her, we were in the French Quarter, crushed like sardines during the celebrations. And I said to her that I thought that this century would be golden for America. I thought this would be a fabulous 100 years. And it hasn't quite turned out that way. We're involved in wars that we aren't actually winning. We haven't won. We're spending money like we can print it. The Federal Reserve currently is printing something like $80 billion a month to keep this country going. It's as though this money is heroin. Until the government can get their injection of heroin every month, the country will just, or the government will just fall apart. 40 cents of every dollar that our government spends is borrowed. It is absolute madness. Being in the IT business, my customers say to me, they call me up and say, we have a problem in our data center. Storage area network isn't working, or we have virtualization problems, all this technical stuff. And they say, come over here and fix it. They don't say, we want to feel your pain. We don't want you to come in and hypothecate about how if we can do this, that, and the other, then we'll all feel really good. They say, we're paying you to fix a problem. So I've become very, very good at fixing problems. If you go to my website, you will see specifics. As far as I know, I'm the only candidate that has specifics on his or her website saying, this is exactly what I want to do, and here are the problems we have. I've written something like 175 articles about everything you can imagine. Some of them you will agree with, some of them you will not agree with, but that's the way I work. I like to tell the truth. I do not want to lie to the public to become elected. I want people to support me. One of the things that we have made an enormous problem with, that I've been talking about for years, is the dollar is under threat. The dollar was wrested away from the British pound, and as you can hear from my funny accent, I'm originally from England. I've been in this country over 40 years now. The British pound used to be the reserve currency, which meant all the international trade took place in pound sterling. In 1944 in Vermont, there was a conference because Britain was broke, because they had to fight Germany. And the British government agreed to turn over the reserve currency to the United States. That's what's one single event that made this country as prosperous as it has been. China is actively trying to wrest away the reserve currency of choice to the Chinese yuan plus other currencies. What that will mean is massive inflation. If you think that the last 5 years has been difficult, I calculated in 2019 it's going to be, we're going to have some very serious problems. After 2019 it will get a lot worse unless we fix the problems. And I want to go to Washington to represent you to fix problems, and I know how to do it. I made an announcement last week, which was in the Atlanta Journal and picked up by the Washington Post, that is in fact historic. Nobody's ever done what I'm starting work on doing. I won't tell you exactly what it is because I want to tease you so you'll visit my website, Alan Levine for Congress. But you'll read this and then you'll go to the Washington Post, or if you just go to Washington Post and type my name in, you'll see a video about what I'm planning to do in the next 6 months. And nobody's ever done this before. And the reason nobody's ever done it before is nobody actually thinks about, in this instance, what the Constitution says. And I read these documents and I think about solutions and variables. I want to make changes. I want to do a lot of things. I want to stop the post office from failing. There is a bill with a single sentence, or a law with a single sentence, and that single sentence says that the post office has to pre-fund 75 years of its pensions, and it is bankrupting the post office, which is why on the news yesterday, Amazon packages are being delivered by the post office.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Is that including my minute and a half?
I yield it back to you. Harold, I yield.
That proves I'm
We'll only go so far, Alan.
But anyway, please visit. I have a lot to say. I like to tell the truth. I'm pretty blunt in private life as well as in public. And if you want a straight shooter in Washington, then and you want the eyes of Europe, the world, on the 11th district, because nobody since the founding fathers who has been a formerly English native who've moved here and have been elected to Congress, the British government is watching this. And thank you very much.
Carolyn, I'm going to start here, but I can't promise you I'm going to stay here. By the way, I'm going to start off by telling the truth. What, 61, 62, right? At the age? Let me start off by introducing you to my wife. And Elizabeth, you can stand up in the back. Elizabeth gave me one admonition when I decided to run for Congress after serving in the Georgia House for 10 years and as the House Majority Whip. Don't whine, you ask for the damn job. So that's what I'm going to be doing here today. I'm going to talk to y'all about what we need to do. When I interviewed for my first job out of law school, the guy that was interviewing me said that I had the odor of sweat about me. And when I left, I thought I had lost the job, and about 30 minutes later, he called to give me the job. He said, no, odor of sweat is a good thing. It means that you work hard. And that's true. I have worked hard my entire life. That kind of work ethic got me going at 14, working in my daddy's plant packaging boiled peanuts. It got me working highway construction in the summer, sweeping out asphalt. It got me working in an ice cream plant in the freezer unit. It got me working in a swamp for an engineering firm, which is a good way to start in politics. It got me working my way through college and law school on scholarships, on work study, and helping my dad out in another business he had on vending machines. It also convinced me that after I got out of law school, the last thing I ever wanted to do was work with my dad again. It got me to come back to Atlanta in 1990 and start a firm with 3 friends. We've now grown to about 80 employees. My law firm defends folks who get sued, by the way, and we don't file the lawsuits. We like to brag that we don't start fights, we just finish them. We represent everyone from large corporations to that individual who may get sued for one reason or another. It got me into the Georgia House in 2004. It got me to work my way up from a vice chair of judiciary up to House Majority Whip. And while there, I've developed a good reputation as a problem solver, as a workhorse, and as a conservative reformer. You're worried about the size of the deficit, so am I. That's why, part of the leadership, I've helped cut the size of the state government by 15%. You're worried about illegal immigration, so am I. That's why I co-sponsored the legislation that took on that basically put into place one of the toughest illegal immigration bills in the country of any state. You're worried about fraud in government. I passed the bill dealing with fraud in government. You're worried about your children and education. I helped write, I co-sponsored, and I chaired the organization that led the fight for the charter school amendment that expands school choice in Georgia. I have worked my way through one issue or another in the Georgia House. And one reason why I'm now running for Congress, quite frankly, is that I'm tired of dealing with the problems that are created in Washington. And that's where the problems lie. If you want to end Obamacare and I want to end Obamacare, let's send somebody to Washington that's worked on health insurance. And I have. I've helped carry in Georgia and sponsor in Georgia and pass in Georgia legislation that will bring free market alternatives to Obamacare. You want to talk about taxes and making them more fair? For 3 years, your property taxes didn't get reassessed because of a bill that I carried. So I understand the necessity for coming up with a more fair tax system. You want to talk about illegal immigration? Like I said earlier, I've worked on this problem. I know the solutions, and I know they can be done. You and I can fix this, but it's going to take someone who knows how to do it, who has the skill set to do it. I've learned in 10 years in the Georgia House what it takes to be successful as a legislator. And it's actually quite simple. You have to have, first off, the strength to lead. Secondly, you have to have the wisdom to know how to negotiate without ever compromising your principles. And third, and most important, you have to have the courage to stay the course when you're getting shot at from all sides. I've been in that arena. I've changed things. I haven't just stood on a sideline and thrown rocks. I haven't just stood up and in front of a microphone. I've walked into the room and negotiated. I've been the only elected Republican in the city of Atlanta. Don't tell me that I don't know how to take on the enemy, because I haven't. Carolyn, I want to thank you for having this forum. I want to thank you for having me here today. And I want to tell you all that if you elect me to the House, and I'm going to work very hard to earn that support, I'm going to be back. And let me first start off this way. You got a pen? Write it down. 404-316-4466. You now no longer have an excuse for not knowing how to get a hold of your congressman, because you can get a hold of his breast pocket. Thank you. God bless.
Well, glory be. We have a second politician that's not long-winded.
The questions are always more interesting.
Actually, they are. That's good. All right, we have one final candidate, and Larry Brzezinski, would you come forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, everybody. Well, it's good to see everybody, and again, I too would like to recognize my lovely wife, Danelle Brzezinski, 28 years. Well, it's great to be here. Well, I tell you that in this election, we're going to see a lot of discussion on issues and principles, but I'm not going to give you theater. But I'm going to give you exactly what I did for nearly 3 decades. I gave action problem solving throughout the world. Now, separation, what we have in all our Congress is this. His character has fingerprints. It tells you where you've been. And it also tells you about strength of character and problem solving for a nation. And been there and done that. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the details of where our threats are in the world, of how I wrote China Threat and how the State Department utilized that under Condoleezza Rice and why I was in the State Department as one of the main reasons. I bring that. I'm probably the first elected official ever served. I know foreign policy. I know counterterrorism. That was part of what I did in the State Department. Ladies and gentlemen, in my career, I've had the pleasure of serving not only in the United States military with soldiers throughout my rank, but also not only in harm's way, but problem solving with nation states. I've been there and done that. Your skills are something that are tested in each one of your skills as far as gifts. Gifts are in talents or when your experience is needed, and I have done that. Let me give you substance. Duty on our country. Never run for office, then I will tell you right now that I am ready. I am ready to deliver to Cherokee County what I've written. And I would tell you that those who have not read either the digest, which our great chairman, Rick Davies and Republican Party of Cherokee has put out to allow us to read, I have written no substantive. I've written it before I even announced. I've written when I was home taking care of my mom and thinking, how can I get the word out to help Cherokee? Transportation, only one in the state of Georgia. No legislator, career politician came up with donor state. And I revealed that, so our TIA failed. And I repeat that in detail. As far as also our tolls, there will never be a toll in this state, and I will never do it again, ever, if I have the chance to write an article, because I will do it as a congressman. We will have no federal tolls, and we will have none in the state of Georgia. And second to that also, written about Affordable Care Act. I've written the inequities, and I've written the solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, no one in Rome, Georgia, who's an urban area, is going to be pushed out of their home to have their rates raised from $120 to $364. I wrote that. I don't cut and paste from Heritage Foundation. I'm an original thinker. And that's what we have. Lobbyists and those behind us. Those career politicians who have lobbyists and have strategists, that's what you hire. I'm not giving you theater. I'm going to give you substance. Term limits, self-imposed. This is not a career. The Constitution doesn't set that out. And I'll tell you that we'd have the best retirement in Congress 5 years on the federal retirement system, they can retire in 5 years and receive 17%, 69 and 463, $100,000 a year with an average of $57,641. It's done. I'm not accepting it, and I'll take Congress leading in that direction. Tax reform, others will not discuss about it, but we're going to do it. You know, we can make a hybrid between the fair tax and flat tax. But they're not going to get a hold of our cash registers. I want no value-added tax on the goods. I will not stand for something that is not going to be beneficial to our economy and slow it down. And we're getting rid of that death tax. But I'm going to tell you something else. We're not going to get rid of charities. This president wants to get rid of charities. You know best where you know the relief needs to go. And that's what needs to be fair. Get rid of the death tax. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the details and the substantiveness. As far as national security, you know where I am on national security. And I don't need to tell you that I'm a member of the NRA, 27 years on active duty, where I stand on the Second Amendment. I think it's very clear. Ladies and gentlemen, it will be a strong Congress. I will lead these 14 congressional districts because I have the experience. I have the bona fide, but I also have this. I have the strength of Cherokee County and the 11th district. And I will tell you that I will never fail. And I don't even have a parking ticket, and I don't plan on getting one today out here in Holly Springs. Ladies and gentlemen, we will lead this. We cannot every 2 years do the same thing, elect career politicians, and be disappointed every 2 years. Elect somebody who has a family name and says, this I will not sully, this I will take care of, this I will do. Yesterday I was at charter schools as a veteran speaker, and I will tell you it was an honor and privilege to see disciplined children focusing on their future and to talk to them about character, ethics, and integrity. It was a thrill, and I will tell you that I will do it 21 days to Sunday if I could. What a privilege. And to you veterans, there is no one in the United States who has done the 10-point plan to redo the Veterans Administration and come up with the solutions to fix. There is no one in Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, I have done it. You have read my plans. You have read what I will produce. And I will tell you, I will fix this debacle for the veterans. I will get in there and make sure this Veterans Administration is held to a CPI, not 5% by managers. It is egregious that our veterans have to wait in line. That will not happen under Congressman Rosinski. I can assure you that. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a choice in this election. You go with your heart, and you know in your heart when you hear it. Character matters. And ladies and gentlemen, God bless you, but I will serve as your congressman, and I'll be the finest congressman example across these United States. God bless you all.
Thank you, Colonel. We are doing excellent on time, and I see that Bruce Thompson showed up with a representative tonight, and we're going to give him a minute. But before we bring him up and any other political candidates, we'll give you all a minute to speak at the end of the program. But I say that because Conrad, wherever you're hiding, yes, you have 2 minutes then, because you don't need to speak for Bruce Thompson. And he has his own rep here. So Conrad wants to tell us about the Christmas party in December,